Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. Today I'm gonna present our workbook summary of chapter 6 and the chapter is about lexical semantics, and this chapter first considers some common assumptions about word meaning, the technical term that linguists use in naming various relationships between words and sentences are introduced. The chapter then examines one way of approaching the problem of lexical meaning called structural semantics, and semantic restrictions on the combination of words and the concept of semantic anomaly are then discussed. The chapter ends with a brief section on cognitive semantics. If you are ready, let's start it. First, what's the meaning of lexical semantics? It's the study of meaning, properties of individual words in isolation. And now we begin by looking at some of our preconception about meaning. And this approach to meaning, which can be termed traditional semantics. And traditional semantics, like traditional grammar, tends to be prescriptive and is often embodied in our attitudes towards dictionaries. And there are some preconceptions. The first one is meaning of a phrase or a sentence consists of a sum of the meaning of its part. Therefore, if we don't know what a sequence of words meaning means, we assume that we simply have to look the words up in a dictionary. In popular thinking about language, there is one exact and accepted meaning for each word in the language. People mostly rely upon dictionaries to offer this correct meaning and to act as arbiters of meaning. However, the assumption that there is one true meaning for a word is mistaken. Even if such unequal meanings existed, dictionary makers would have no direct access to them. They can only consult usage. And native speakers do not always agree on the meanings of words. Even common words and dictionaries cannot be expected to record individual variation in word meanings. And there is example, your sister's husband, your husband's brother, your wife's brother, like that. Let's move. A second assumption of traditional semantics is that the correspondence between a word and a thing is simple and direct. And there is example, disappointment names an emotional state, but to comprehend the word, we must know that this is the state which results from one's hopes or expectation of something pleasant not being satisfied. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be disappointed that you didn't get hurt in an accident, but you might be disappointed that you did not get the raise you expected. A third assumption of traditional semantics, and perhaps the most problematical one, is that words name things or objects in real world. That meaning is always in reference to phenomena outside language. In fact, many words don't name things at all, such as words denoting abstractions or non-entities or function words. And linguists believe that a clear distinctions must be made between the extension of a word, the set of entities that a word denotes in the world, its reference, if it denotes an entity at all, and the intension of a word, the set of properties shared by all the reference of a word, their defining characteristics. Let's move. Basic semantic relationship. As speakers of the language, we all have an implicit understanding of a number of semantic relationships that hold between either word or sentence in the language. And let's examine different types of relationship. First one is paraphrase. What does it mean? An utterance is a paraphrase of another when it has the same meaning as another. And there is the example purchase, buy, we can say. And the other one, entailment. One utterance entails another when the second is a logically necessary consequence of the first. There is the example, Alan lives in Toronto, entails Alan lives in Canada. And the other one, inclusion, one utterance encompasses another, and there is example, I like fruit includes I like apples, like that. The other one, contradiction, a statement or sequence of the utterance is logically contradictory. That is, if one is true, the other must be false. And there is example, he is an orphan contradicts his parents are living, or I was fatally ill last year. And the other one, anomaly, an utterance has no meaning in the everyday world. It violates semantic rules. And there is example, he swallowed a dream, or the rat giggled. The other one, lexical ambiguity, a word or phrase allows more than one meaning in context, and there is example, a large bill which may denote a large breach of a word, or a large check at the restaurant, two different words, bill. The other one, denotation, connotation. Words have literal or referential meanings. This is a denotation, but also evoke feelings, attitudes, or opinions, and this is connotations. And there are examples: soldier, warrior, illness, disease, or ailment, condition, we can say. The other one, polysemy. A word has more than one meaning out of context. The meanings are related to one another. And there is example, fire, to burn or ignite, to shoot a gun, and to discharge from one's employment, like that. And the other one, honomy, two words sound and are written the same, but are different in meaning. There is example, sound one, noise, and sound two, body of water. We can say. The other one, meronymy, a word denotes part of a whole. There is example, fender is to car, wig is to mouth, like that. The other one, presupposition, what is assumed beforehand by an utterance, or what is taken for granted is said take presupposed. And there is example, my teacher gave a boring lecture, like that. Let's move. Structural semantics. One description of the meaning relationship of words in a language is that of the British linguist John Lyons, and is called structural semantics. There are three major types of relationship: synonym, hyponym, and oppositeness. The concept of synonym is, of course, well known and intuitively obvious. It denotes sameness in meaning or sense, and there is example, unhappy, sad, huge, enormous, or correct, right. And two words may have the same meaning in a particular context, but not necessarily in all contexts. There is example, synonym, the shirt is pale or light in color, not synonyms. The book is light pale in weight, and we can say. And hyphonymy, it's a relationship of inclusion or entailment. The meaning of the hyphonymy includes the meaning of superordinate term, like red includes scarlet or crimson, and the meaning of the hyphonym entails the meaning of the superordinate term. Scarlet entails red, for example. And there's an example. Let's look for the set of terms red, scarlet, crimson, vermilion, pink, maroon, and so on. Red is what Lyons calls a superordinate term, and scarlet are what he calls cohyphonyms or hyphonyms. Let's move. There are three different relationships of oppositeness. First one is complementarity, is a relationship of contradiction, and there are examples: single, married, male, female, dead, alive, pregnant, not pregnant. The other one, antonymy, refers to gradable concepts. There are examples: big, small, little, old, young, new, small, large, intelligent, unintelligent, like that. The other one, converseness, denotes a kind of reversal. There are examples of verbs expressing reciprocal actions, like buy, sell, rent, rent. Verbs expressing reverse actions, unzip, tie, wrap, unwrap. Expression of time and space in front of, behind, in back of. Kinship terms, husband, wife, brother, sister. Professional relationship, teacher, student, employer, employee. Like that, we can say. And semantic features. The determination of semantic features is a kind of factoring out of semantic components, and you can see the table and you can look into. It's more feature analysis of nouns. The use of a set of semantic features thus provides for a better means of analyzing nouns into subclasses, as it allows for cross-categorization of this type. We will analyze nouns with the following set of semantic feature: common, animate, collective, count, human, concrete, male, collective, like that. The meaning of the features human and male is self-evident. Animate usually refers to animal rather than vegetable life, with a secondary meaning of living. Thus, tree and beef should be analyzed as animate, the first not being animal life and the second not being living. Using the semantic features, however, we couldn't distinguish between the terms father and man. Certain classes of nouns, such as kinship terms, require different kinds of feature, namely relational features. X, parent of Y, X animate human adult male, Y animate human adult male. Let's move. Feature analysis of verbal predicates. It's possible to characterize the inherent temporal nature of the situation named by the word by using a number of semantic features. This temporal nature is referred to as inherent aspects or situation aspect. There are a number of ways in which inherent aspect can be defined, but it's sufficient for our purposes to identify four semantic features for verbal predicates. First one, stative. This feature recognizes whether the situation denoted by the verb involves change, stative or not stative. It's said that a stative situation requires the input of energy, whereas a stative situation does not. Second one, durative. This feature recognizes whether the situation goes on in time, durative, or occurs at a moment in time, punctual, instantaneous. The other one, telic, this feature recognizes whether the situation has an endpoint or goal, which is necessary for the situation to be what is, or has no necessary conclusion. And the other one, voluntary, this feature recognizes whether the situation is a matter of an agent's voluntary or willful action. And let's move. States denote unchanging situations such as emotional, cognitive, and physical states, conditions, or qualities. States are continuous over the entire time period in which they exist. State of expressions can be identified by a number of formal properties. Let's look. A state is generally expressed in the simple, not the progressive form, because the progressive indicates a situation which is ongoing and changing. Philip is loving Bridget, for example. A state lasts in time definitely for a given period of time with no necessary end. It answers the question for how long. And the other one, a person cannot be commanded, forced, or persuaded to be in a state because a state is not a matter of volition or will. Love Bridget, his mother forced him to love Bridget, for example. And activities are dynamic situations which go on in time, potentially indefinitely. An activity goes on in a homogeneous way. It's constant over the period of time in which it happens. With an activity, one can spend a certain amount of time, verb ing. An activity may be either continuing, argue, talk, walk, or changing, grow, improve, decline. Let's move. Feature analysis of models. It's most often expressed by the model auxiliaries and their phrasal equivalents: will, would, can, could, may, might, have to, have got to, need to. And model meaning can be analyzed using two features: epistemic meaning, which is a matter of belief, inference deductions such as potentiality, possibility, probability, prediction, or certainty, or deontic. Deontic meaning is a matter of action such as permission, duty, responsibility, obligation, weak or strong, or command. Epistemic meanings answer the question, how do you know? While deontic meanings answer the question, what should I do? Epistemic modality relates to the entire proposition. And let's give an example. It may rain. It's possible that it will rain. This is epistemic. Deontic modality is subject-oriented. You may the table. Example, you are permitted to leave the table, for example. Let's move. Postscript on semantic features. No one has yet determined all the possible semantic components of one language. To do so, it will probably be necessary to postulate many semantic components that occur in only one word. Moreover, many aspects of meaning are not binary and are not susceptible to analysis into binary features. We also saw that for different parts of speech, we had to postulate very different kinds of semantic features. And we seem to use different features for different purposes, such as to identify something, to give synonyms or definition, or to make inferences. It's uncertain how clearly features are marked, especially in our passive vocabulary. Let's move. Prototype. It's a cognitive reference point, the prototype of all representative of the meaning of a word or of a category. For example, robin or a sparrow can be regarded as good example of the category bird, while a penguin or an ostrich is a quite bad example of this category. And semantic anomaly, it refers to a deviation from the typical meaning or usage of a word or phrase within a specific context. And selectional restrictions, semantic anomaly follows from restrictions on the compatibility or combinability of words. Not only does a word contain certain semantic features, but it may also require that words with which it co-occurs include certain features. These are called its selectional restrictions, and there are examples of selectional restrictions. Throat requires subject, sing requires human or avian subject, talk, think, dream require human subject. We can say. Let's move. Figurative language. We have been concerned with literal or normal uses of language because figurative uses of language routinely violate or break selection restrictions. With figurative uses of language, we can supply some interpretation. And there are types of figurative language. Let's do. Paradox refers to expression which contain an explicit contradiction. There are examples: silent, scream, cold comfort, good, grief, like that. The other one, tautology, refers to expressions which are true by definition, offering no new information. And there is example: an orphan is a parentless child. The other one is synesthesia. Refers to expression which combine a word from one sensory domain with a word from another sensory domain. There are examples: cold response, sweet sound, cool reception, sharp rebuke. The other one, synecdoche, refers to expression which refer to a thing by naming part of it. There is example: a new face or new blood, a new person. The other one, metonymy, refers to expression which denote a thing by naming, by terming something associated with it. And there are examples: the law, the police, the crown, the throne, the king, the bench, the judiciary. The other one, personification, refers to expression which attribute human qualities to non-human or inanimate objects. There are examples: the idea grabbed me, the vending machine ate my money, like that. The other one, metaphor, refers to expression which transfer words from one conceptual domain to another. There is example: the bad news shattered her. He eagerly drank up the new ideas. These are the examples. Let's move. In metaphors, selectional restrictions may be violated in one of two ways depending on whether the noun or the verb must be interpreted metaphorically. The noun is interpreted metaphorically. For example, Ralph is married to a GM. Juliet is the sun. Billboards are words on the landscape. The verb is selects subject and objects with the same semantic features. Thus, Jim, sun, and words are incompatible with the verb and are read figuratively. And the verb is interpreted metaphorically. There is example: my car drinks gasoline. Create the complements. Kevin is married to his work. The moonlight sleeps upon the bank. Selection and restrictions of the subject or object. These sentences are incompatible with the features of drink, eat, be married, and sleep. And thus the verbs are read figuratively. Let's move. Cognitive approach to meaning. Cognitive processes underlying language are themselves metaphorical. That is, a metaphor is essentially a device that involves conceptualizing one domain of experience in terms of another. And there are examples: I won the argument. he retreated from his initial positions. And there are examples of metaphors based on unifying cognitive mappings. Ideas are subjects to be sensed. Building the argument is shaky. Food, that notion is half-baked. People, he is the father of the linguistics. Plants, the seeds of the idea were planted. And love is a physical force, and there is not an electricity between us. They gravitated towards each other. Cognitive semantics, which has been developed in recent years according to this approach because of our physical experience of being and acting in the world, we form basic conceptual structures which we then use to organize thoughts across a range of more abstract domains. These conceptual structures are called imagery and include such abstract concepts as up-down, front-back, part-whole, inside-outside, container-contained force, path balance, and containment. In conclusion, the overarching view of cognitive linguists is that the meaning of words are a reflection of general conceptual organization mappings between and within conceptual domains and principle of linguistic categorization, prototypically core and peripheral meanings. And let's move. And that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening.